Hello and welcome to Recharge Wrestling. We're here to plug you into the world of professional wrestling. I'm Fisher, and I'm here with both my co-hosts this week, Keeney and Krusty. We're all on the show today.
Hey guys, we got a triple threat, hopefully as good as the one at Survivor Series.
That was a good reference, actually. I was going to say Three Musketeers, but had nothing to do with wrestling, so don't know why I didn't think of that.
That's a good little thing, because we're going to talk about obviously Survivor Series to start with, because we didn't do a special pod for it, which is a shame, but we've all been busy. But we'll mention that briefly at the start before we go into our usual sort of review of SmackDown and Raw this week, and that'll be about it. We'll talk about our predictions league at the end as well. So any interest in that, make sure you stick around, and we'll give you more details on that later on. So. Who wants to go first with their brief thoughts on Survivor Series? Just a quick roundup, their highlights, their lowlights, and anything else.
Yeah, I can start. No worries at all.
Go on. Go for it.
So, yeah, overall, I enjoyed the show. I thought it was pretty good. Really enjoyed the two War Games matches. I think it makes a lot of sense to start the show with one and end the show. Yeah. I think it sort of starts on a high and ends on a high. In terms of wrestling, I actually thought the women's War Game match was actually better in terms of the wrestling, from my opinion. But the storytelling in the main event was incredible. So I absolutely loved that with the Bloodline versus the Brawling Brutes. But I'd say my highlight is probably actually the triple threat. Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, and Austin Theory. And we always knew it was going to be a great match, which it was, absolutely incredible. But I don't think anybody expected the result that we got, with Austin Theory picking up a cheeky win, with Lashley hitting the spear on Seth as he was about to hit a Falcon Arrow on Austin Theory. He just literally rolls over, puts his arm over Seth, 1, 2, 3. I don't know anybody who thought Austin Theory was going to win this match, and we'll talk about it a little bit more lately, but this has fired a heel rocket up his bum. He is propelled to heights, in my opinion, and I'm loving it. I think this is brilliant, and I am the biggest Seth Rollins fan, as you guys listening probably know. I know you two know how much of a sort of bias I can put towards him. I don't mind him dropping the belt here. That's how good I thought this was, of a sort of a surprise. So yeah, really enjoyed the show overall. A low light, I suppose, had to be the Ronda match, I'm afraid. Just didn't enjoy that at all. Thought the wrestling was a bit sloppy and just generally pretty boring.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'll basically echo the thoughts. I thought it was a good show. I thought, actually, interestingly, I thought the men's match was better than the women's personally, but they were both really good. The thing is with War Games matches is that they're always bangers. It's quite hard to have a bad one.
Definitely.
And like I say, the storytelling towards the end of the men's War Games, we got a few skits throughout the show with Sammy and Roman backstage. And just like there was little, obviously the ending with the low blow from Sammy on Kevin, and all of that, and the haluva kick. And interestingly, Jey Uso getting the pin, which is an interesting kind of conclusion. But just a little thing I liked was when the second entrant was coming in for the Bloodline, and Jimmy was about to go, and then Roman's like he's like, "No, Sammy, you go." It's just great. Just put Sammy in there with Jay. Really interesting. I mean, Sami Zayn and the Jey Uso, mainly them two, is incredible. And it goes on. We'll talk about it more when we get into Raw. But loved it. And yeah, like you said, unfortunately, Ronda Shotzi wasn't a very good match. I don't really
just to get Ronda on the card, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, I don't know what you do with Ronda at this point. She's a bit. I said my thoughts. I want it to be Shayna against Ronda, but I don't think we're getting that anytime soon. And then the other match I haven't really mentioned was AJ Balor, which is also a banger.
That was a great match, yeah.
Yeah, so the wrestling in general was really good on this show, and like I say, a surprising title change, and good for Theory.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts. I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I agree with Krusty. I think on the wrestling side of it, I think the women's War Games match was actually probably better than the men's. I think the men's was much more story based, but I love story based matches. You know,
It was brilliant.
one of my
it was
matches of the year a couple of years ago, which you guys disagreed with, was Jey Uso and Roman because of how good a story it was. This was in similar vein. Like the story, there wasn't like I felt like the Brutes and that were a little bit of an afterthought in this match because the story was all about Kevin Owens and the Bloodline and Sammy, and the story was so good that it didn't really matter that they didn't do that much. So I was really happy with that match. In terms of the women's match, I thought they all got a really good showing. EO done some cool stuff. Nikki Cross did a crossbody off the top, which was good. I thought Mia Yim had a good showing, which she needed. I thought the match was really good actually in general, and I'm definitely agree with both of you on the sort of the worst part of this. I don't want to skid mark it as such, but the worst part of the show being Shotzi and Ronda. Ronda's title, this title run from Ronda has been a complete bust so far. I'm not enjoying it at all. Her promos
I'd have honestly left it on
her
Liv.
matches aren't good.
I'd have left Liv with the belt.
It's not good at the moment. And the actual highlight of the night was Sammy and Jey Uso kind of hugging at the end for me. That was just like the cherry.
Yeah, I'm loving the to and fro-ing in this story. I did not expect that to come back. We were waiting for that sort of clash,
I thought they were going to break. I predicted the Brutes to win this match because I thought we were going to get the split here. But I think they've got to drag it out based on the eventual
split, doesn't it?
Based on the future plans that I've heard of happening.
Here he is. Thanks, Fish has been texting Triple H.
Rumors online and stuff. But and I thought Balor and AJ was a banger. Obviously, that was good, and I really enjoyed the triple threat. My only criticism is I don't really get Theory winning the title purely on the sense of he cashed in and lost it like 2 weeks ago, and then
I don't get why they didn't
just have him win.
Take so much heat on him because, as he even said in his promo, which we'll go on about to talk about on Raw, like everyone has been saying, it was the worst cash in ever. He's like, he did need that. He's been like gone to absolute rock bottom, and we all bought it. We lapped it up, didn't we? We did not think that we thought Triple H is shit in Theory to like sort of weirdly get back, but he's just a genius, an absolute genius. The way
he was doing, he was shitting on Vince's booking of Theory, not on Theory himself.
Yeah,
clearly. You know,
that's a different video you got to pay for if you want that one.
But it really, I think he was not, and he's done it with other people. He's obviously clearly not been happy with the way certain people have been booked. I mean, look at LA Knight, for example. I mean, that could be a segue onto SmackDown in a minute. But there's so many people that he's booked differently to how Vince sees them. And it's just how Triple H sees them compared to how Vince sees them. And a lot of the time, I think the fans prefer the Triple H vision. Not in every single case, but in vast majority. So I think that's probably about enough for Survivor Series. Let's move on to SmackDown. And let's talk about LA Knight straight away then, because I thought after the attack 2 weeks ago that we would get LA Knight versus Bray Wyatt at Survivor Series. I thought Survivor Series was the perfect place for Bray to have his first match back. But obviously they delayed that. LA Knight was in the crutches and a sling, and then he got attacked again. So they're delaying it. But what do you make of the LA Knight Bray Wyatt feud so far?
Good. Surprising. I think we said before, this wasn't on anyone's, dirt sheets. LA Knight v Bray Wyatt as his first feud. So this is a really interesting move, and it's what I want. I just want to see it play out. I'm not quite giving an opinion yet because I'm not. So far, it's it's kind of so. It's not too much on it yet, and really, I want to see more from Bray. I want to see, and his Uncle Howdy is just an interesting figure. Anyway, I don't really know where that fits in. There's too many question marks right now for me to say whether it's good or bad.
I like the interactions between LA and Bray. But I don't want them to wait too long to do the match because obviously we haven't got pay-per-view for 9 weeks until the Royal Rumble. And it feels like Bray's not going to wrestle just on an episode of SmackDown.
Do you think that the attack last week, though, will potentially take LA Knight out for a week or two to prolong this? Because he was like flat out under a load of apparatus. So
they're obviously delaying it, and it might even go to the Rumble, but that's a long time to keep Bray going without even having a match. I mean, he's been back since when did he come back? Was it the end of
maybe LA Knight is Uncle Howdy?
It was the end of Extreme Rules, which was a while, a couple of months ago now.
Was it that long?
It was. Yeah.
I don't think it'll wait that long. Triple H isn't scared of putting a big match on
no, he's not. He's not.
weekly
But
television.
it's intriguing because I don't want him to wait too long for it to sort of fizzle out.
Maybe New Year's. They don't do a New Year's Day show now, do they?
Yeah,
Not-
but you're
they're not
right
doing a
though. Like
pay-per-view.
the first SmackDown show of the year, they might just go
Something
big, or
like
like a
that.
Christmas. You know, this
Christmas
is
special.
a good main event for a weekly show that it doesn't give away a big match. LA Knight v Bray Wyatt isn't a match people have been clamoring for, but it's a good enough to main event and give a decent amount of time.
Although
So
it'll be his first match back, which is pretty huge.
yeah, I think you're right. I think Survivor Series was the place to do it. Maybe just
Yeah.
have that instead of Ronda, but then you need. Yeah.
I think they could have had a sixth match. It didn't need to go long. It could have been
Yeah, well, no,
honestly, it could have been like less than 10 minutes.
Some story
think the
build's nice though, isn't it?
Yeah, that is
Showing
true.
off LA Knight's.
It's just because they don't have another pay-per-view soon. If they had day one on New Year's Day, I'd be like, well, you can just do it there. But another 3-4 weeks is fine. But we've got a long wait to the pay-per-view, and I just wonder because Bray doesn't wrestle very often when he is actually going to get back in the ring. But yeah, I mean, he might wrestle on SmackDown. Who knows?
He might do. Should we talk about the World Cup? And I mean,
Yeah.
SmackDown World Cup.
I was going to say Spain have just scored against Japan. If you want to talk about that, but
Yeah,
no, let's
I
talk
get
about.
that. Let's get into. We had two semi-final matches. Santos Escobar defeating Butch, and we had Ricochet defeating Braun Strowman in
That's
a bit of a
the
shock.
interesting one for me.
Yeah, because I think it was kind of geared up for Braun,
and the
v
feud still
Gunther.
is Braun v Gunther, really.
Yeah, because Imperium come down and Ricochet got a win, and then it seemed like Imperium then attacked Braun, and Ricochet came down to help him.
I'm going to say it's a theory. It's pretty obvious. What happens here, I think, for Braun's point of view. So Braun, and they've even mentioned it on commentary, and Ricochet even said it to himself. Obviously, Braun did some tweets and some stuff saying, he's better than all these flippy, floppy guys, and sort of, being a bit unprofessional with some of his comments. So apparently he got him some backstage heat. Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, some others called him out on Twitter over it. I think this was a punishment. You can lose to Ricochet because of this. But eventually, I think they're filling time to the Rumble. I think they're going to do Gunther v either Escobar or Ricochet in a couple of weeks. And then they'll build Strowman and Gunther probably to the Rumble. And then we'll get Gunther versus Strowman at the Royal Rumble, which I think is a good match to do on the card. And that also means you don't have to put Strowman in the Rumble. And I actually think that's a better idea because putting a big man like that in there, I hate them spots when like it takes like 10 people to eliminate him and he just annihilates half the field. So
Very
I think
predictable, yeah.
Yeah, I think having him in a one-on-one match against Gunther would be a better use of him. So I think you can build that because you've got the World Cup to decide the number one contender. I think you can drag that out now.
Do we have any predictions for the World Cup winner?
Ricochet would make sense
Ricochet?
because obviously he was involved in that angle yesterday with Thing, and obviously Ricochet being a face and Escobar being a heel.
Would you have Escobar lose in a singles match?
I mean, you could just have Escobar. I honestly don't know. I don't know what they. I just expected
whoever
Strowman
wins
to win
it
the
is going to
tournament,
lose,
so.
aren't they? So
Yeah, they're not going to beat Gunther. Unless they want the title off Gunther and they want, Gunther v Braun as just an attraction match.
you could have Braun interfere with the match and cost Ricochet.
Yeah, I wonder whether we were going to move towards a Ricochet Braun tag team and do something with Imperium. I mean, it doesn't really make sense because I guess Gunther, but yeah, just like an interesting Braun and Ricochet might work as a tag team. Might be one of those weird teams that,
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't really know what you do with Braun. So I'd put Braun in a tag team. So I don't really know what you do with him as a single star.
So I think him versus Gunther is a big match. I think it's a big match to put at the Rumble. Obviously, you have Gunther win and Strowman put him over. After that, I'm not sure what you do with Strowman for like the Mania season. I think you should keep the title on Gunther till WrestleMania, and then maybe have him face someone like Drew McIntyre. I think that's a money match they haven't done yet, or something like that. So yeah, I think that would be the best thing going forward. because I don't know what Drew's going to do at Mania either. So I think that kind of kills two birds with one stone now, really, putting them together. But yeah, the World Cups, I mean, it's been a bit pointless, I would say.
Well, especially as the title feud is happening outside of the World Cup.
Yeah, it feels like that now. It feels like it's
So
just a filler
this
match.
final does feel a bit pointless now. I say, unless they do a swerve and they get the belt off Gunther and have Gunther. Again, I don't really know what else he does because he can't really go after Roman, can he? Or can he? I don't know. But
yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? Krusty, any thoughts?
No, basically just
quiet on
echo
this
what
one.
both of you have said.
no thoughts from Krusty there. I wonder if Krusty's got any thoughts on the Viking Raiders and Hit Row and Valhalla, as she is now named, Sarah Logan.
I mean, it's all right. It's nothing I'm hugely interested in. I do like the fact that they've brought Valhalla into this. It gives them another sort of angle, I guess, because before they were just destroying people with nothing else. But it's just one of those little fillers, isn't it? That it looks cool visually. Don't know how much legs it's got, to be honest. I mean, they're not going to win a title anytime soon, are they?
No, and a question for the group: is the return of Hit Row a success so far?
No.
That is a good question because I've seen some people saying, it's Triple H given up on them already.
They seem
I just
lost.
don't think they're not the same without Swerve. They're not.
Yeah, to bring them back without like the main guy is
I like
was
Top
an
Dollar.
interesting
I think he's
call.
got charisma. I think he's okay in the ring. Ashanti the Adonis doesn't do too much in my eyes. He's just kind of average, and B-Fab is okay as a valet, but that's all she is really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their entrance is sometimes cool, but
she's good on the mic. But yeah, I think I agree with you there.
I don't think it's really working.
The thing is that they haven't had too much mic time, have they? Really?
No, not enough. And I think this also. I know.
I think they should be doing more cool stuff rather than just matches with them. Yeah, I think that would work better.
I think it also passes onto Escobar's group. I don't think they've had enough mic time, considering who they have there. They got Zelina Vega, who's absolute fire on the microphone.
She was good on comms, wasn't she? She was on commentary for the Santos Escobar match.
I think at least though with Escobar, he's having single matches and he's winning. I agree with the rest of the group, but at least Escobar feels like he's getting somewhat of a push. And again, if it's similar to Hit Row, because Hit Row would be in a similar position, I think. If they had Swerve with them, they'd have the same amount of people. You'd have the tag team, the lady, and then you'd have the front person, which would be, obviously in this case, Escobar would be Swerve. And I think Swerve would get a decent push from Triple H. But they're missing that sort of lead person of the faction almost, I feel.
Maybe Triple H needs to get on the phone towards Swerve. I don't know what his AW contract situation is, but
yeah, I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. I think he's signed a long-term deal, and he seems pretty happy with what he's doing. So
he was tag champ, wasn't he? Recently?
Yeah, for a while. So yeah,
yeah, interesting. Just interesting. Selena Vega kind of mentioned the bloodline in their on commentary. Just an interesting thing. Saying we're coming after the bloodline or whatever, or she mentioned down the line. So I don't know if that means anything. It's just an interesting comment. And then everything else that happened on SmackDown led to Survivor Series.
Survivor Series. Yeah, Becky coming out. Obviously, that was cool. The storytelling with Sammy and Jay and Kevin Owens and Sammy lying to Jay, but that's all kind of been resolved. Yeah, most of it was related to Survivor Series, so there's not really too much point in going into it now.
No. On to Raw, I guess.
No, she got on to Raw, and this is probably my. No, this not probably. This is my top mark of the week, including Survivor Series.
Oh wow, okay.
The opening of Raw. Becky
I did
Lynch
love this segment
coming out, and this is what the women's division has missed. I mean, Bianca Belair's been champ for a while. Ronda, Liv have had it on SmackDown, but none of them. Maybe I'm being a bit extreme here, but none of them really hold a candle to Becky Lynch when she does stuff like this. She just comes out, owns what she's doing, and I loved her going into the crowd. Like, I don't know if that was
so random, wasn't it?
Like, apparently it wasn't, because I've seen the guy's tweets on Twitter. The guy,
I was like, are these plants? But then like one of them was like proper like get a bit handsy with her, and she kind of moved away a bit. And
I don't think they were plants.
I was like, yeah, and just
I thought they were, but they're not. Apparently, I don't think they were.
Phenomenal presence from Becky Lynch, just owning the mic, owning what she's doing, and I was like, yes, this is what I want to see. This is like
we really did miss this.
Yeah, like the female Roman, that kind of presence is
and I
insane.
think it's even stepped up Bailey's game now. Straight away, Bailey came out and she was starting to feel a little bit irrelevant. But I think, in fact, the whole of Damage Control, I feel, has been stepped up because of Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they can play off each other. Funny you mentioned Bianca Belair. I feel she has sort of gone off the boil a bit since Becky went off the scene.
I feel like the Raw Women's Division in general has had less effort put into it and has had less energy about it.
Well,
and Becky's just shot into it and made it come to life again. I don't think it's the talent's fault. I think they based all of it around one feud. They were wrestling each other every week, and now we're going to have split-offs, and that's so much better.
It's going to be good.
Yeah.
I loved Bailey's... Becky's part promo was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I loved the back and forth, but I loved Bailey's line saying that Becky was sitting with the idiot peasants.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned it before, but Becky and Bailey have never actually had a one-on-one match on the main roster, which is crazy when you think about how long they've been on.
Mental,
they're the two of the four horsewomen. They've been on the main roster now for 6 years.
Sounds like a feud that should have happened a few times before. And
it
doesn't
weirdly.
compute.
I mean, Becky and Charlotte have feuded forever. Bailey and Sasha have feuded forever, but those two, for some reason, never crossed paths. And now they are. And I think Becky v Bailey is a great match to do.
I do think, I think you may end up with a triple threat or something like that for the title.
Although Becky come across
I've
really
got a
strong
different idea for the title personally, but we'll get that later.
Becky. I mean, obviously, this went backstage because Damage Control came down into the crowd, and then she basically destroyed the three of them out the back. Becky,
that was awesome. I really strong.
It was a really good chaotic start to Raw in a good way.
I just loved. I like when she went into the crowd. I was like, just makes you kind of, what's happening here? This is just.
And the crowd are really reacting to it because they're involved. That's the key thing. You're not just standing to the crowd going, I don't like the crowd, blah, blah,
blah. It wasn't a generic, and again, I know you're a big Bianca Belair fan, and so am I, Krusty, but she kind of does similar promos all the time. I'm the EST.
I'm wondering
kind
whether
of on
we
repeat.
need a heel turn for Bianca Belair. Give us something different.
Something needs to happen. I actually think, I don't know, Fisher, you said you had an idea.
I do.
I think I've said it for a while now, but Rhea Ripley v Belair is the match I would do, and I'd have Rhea as champion with Judgment Day, and
I think maybe WrestleMania.
Maybe she beats Belair and then Belair turns heel and does.
I think they're setting Rhea Ripley up to win the Royal Rumble, and then Rhea versus Bianca at Mania.
She does look very strong, Rhea Ripley.
That's not a bad shout.
I
think Triple H sees it. I think the reason he hasn't gone to it is because he sees it as like a Mania match.
But he did book it, and an injury stopped it happening.
I thought that was Vince.
Oh, was that Vince?
Yeah, Vince booked it, and then she came back because she was in Judgment. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and they ignored it. Yeah,
Triple H has just ignored it, and I think there's the reason for that.
I think something else may be going on since we're talking about the women's title scene.
Yeah,
we had the with the promo backstage
with
Bianca, Alexa.
This is what I was going to get to. I think
Alexa was on her own daydream, wasn't she?
Yes, she had the Bray Wyatt logo
behind her.
It.
She didn't look like she wanted to be there. I kind of thought that there could be a potential heel turn at Survivor Series for her. Didn't happen. A lot of people were sort of saying it could be. I think she turns on Bianca within this next few weeks, and
I think she needs
Alexa
that.
I think Alexa massively. You talked about Bianca turning heel. For me, there isn't a staler big women's star than Alexa Bliss. Her character is just nothing. She's just there.
But her stood out the back, like not acknowledging, not being interested. Actually looked legit. Like she's thinking, "Oh God, this rubbish."
So
again.
I think within a few
I was
weeks,
thinking that too.
We're gonna get we're gonna get Alexa turn on maybe Asuka first because they've been sort of teaming. I mean, maybe we get a number one contenders match between Asuka and Alexa, and Alexa wins.
Maybe
Maybe
they
with
together
some-
fight and cost the
maybe
win
even
or
with some
something.
sort of Bray Wyatt thing. I'm not sure, but I don't want them to go down that route, but they could do it.
I was gonna say I don't know if I want to see
I don't
Bray
wanna
and
see it.
Alexa again.
I want to see Goddess Alexa Bliss. I want to see heel Goddess, a prime Alexa Bliss that we got in 2016, 17. You know, when she was
When
Goddess,
she beat Becky in a table match, that was awesome.
Yeah, when she had
One of my favourite
La
matches. that I can
Conquistadora
remember.
teaming with her, who was Mickey James, of course. Had to get them mentioned on
God,
there. Had to
it's
do
been a
Had to do
while
it.
since you've
Had to
dropped
do
her
it.
in
Sorry,
there.
I just think of that
Fisher.
time, and prime Alexa Bliss and Mickey James was awesome. That was a good time. That was a great time. But even after that, when Alexa was on her own and she was the Goddess, it was great. So yeah, I want her to go back to that character, and I think that's where we may end up. And I think we're going to get Alexa v Bianca, which is a few down
Well, I'm
number
glad
4
we're on
as
the
well.
same
So,
page there, young Fisher.
yeah, I think that just makes sense. I think we hold off on Rhea till
Yeah, I think
Mania.
I agree there.
Yeah.
Yep. And in the women's division, also Candice LeRae beat Dakota Kai in a match.
Yeah, good to see
later on.
Candice back. Because I think she, Krusty asked last week or the week before where Candice was, why she was not involved in War Games. I think she had a little minor injury. So she's obviously back now. And
Yeah,
good
they
to see
did
again.
a
She
beatdown backstage.
she added a bit of fresh life into the women's division as well, just by having they had a really good match, by the way, her and Dakota.
It was great, wasn't it?
It was a really just a solid 10-minute women's match. Like we've missed that a little bit, I think.
This is one of those, I kind of got that moment, sat there watching this. I was like, we've got Candice LeRae v Dakota Kai on the main roster of WWE. Like this,
Cool, isn't it?
This doesn't happen. Like this is one of those you kind of think like this is such a Triple H match.
Yeah.
And yeah, loved it.
She won with a super neck breaker, which was cool and
that was a cool finish.
I've not seen that before.
I still think we're heading to a mixed tag match somewhere with Johnny and Miz. Somewhere that's happening at some point, I think. But
maybe they'll do that at the Royal Rumble. Who knows?
Well, since we mentioned the Miz, should we go on to talk about the Dexter Loomis versus Miz Anything Goes match?
Yeah, so Miz tried to get out of it with a bad hand backstage, whatever.
Yeah,
Adam Pearce got nice to see him back again.
Yeah,
he's not used enough recently, actually.
Yeah,
Since he cut an absolutely fire promo on SmackDown, and then I hadn't seen him. That was like 2 months ago, and he hasn't done much since that. And I was like, use this man. Although he might not. If rumors are true, they might not have much use for him anytime soon. Mr. Regal might be coming back. So,
is he? Oh, okay.
Well, we don't know, but
Fisher's
dropping rumors.
Mr. Regal his contract was only 6
Well,
months.
that was short-lived.
And based on, I won't spoil it for you, but you need to watch an angle on AEW to just decide whether you think he's leaving AEW or not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I'd be glad to see him back.
But yeah, that was a random tangent.
That is a
if
tangent.
he came back as the main roster GM,
just for old time's sake, can you do your War Games impression?
War Games.
There we go. This is William Regal War Games
Also,
impression.
to add to that, Triple H actually tweeted saying it's not the same without this. And they had a clips of all the times William Regal says War Games, which adds fuel to the fire of him coming back.
That's
doesn't
amazing.
it?
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we know what we're doing? Because we were talking about Dexter Loomis with Miz at one point.
But it's kind of hot news at the moment about Regal in the last few hours. So I did want to get that
hot news from Fisher.
Anyway, from William Regal to Dexter Loomis. I thought this match was kind of a bit of fun, but also there was a point in this match where my eyes rolled and I
am so bored of this.
I'm glad Dexter's finally got the match and won.
Do you know what point I mean? Is when he had the vice, whatever it was, on his head.
Oh, that bit was
stupid. And
I didn't like that. It
wasn't very tiny. I was like this, and like that come back from an advert break to go to that. Like I don't know how we got into that. But anyway, the match itself, nothing special.
I mean, the elbow drop through the table was cool, but
yeah. But Loomis, the aftermatch bit I liked, where Gargano comes down with the money and then he gives it to the fans, the little kids, and Miz
the
takes
thumb
off
up
the
bit.
kid.
I like the thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up with Gargano.
Yeah, I like the money bit at the end. That was good. That was a good.
But the match didn't make me excited that Dexter got a contract.
No.
Well, he's not particularly interesting in the ring. This is the thing.
Yeah. My question is, what the hell do you do with Dexter Loomis now? Like, I don't really know what you do with him. I don't know where
he's a very difficult character to book because he can have funny little moments. He's literally a character you can put on the screen for 1 minute on a show, and he can do something funny. But then when the bell rings and he's in a proper, like, there's not really a lot going on. So it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're going to continue some sort of relationship with him and Gargano. But who knows?
Yeah, it seems to be that way, doesn't it? Not particularly interested in that duo, but yeah, nice to see him get a contract as if he didn't already have one. Before we get on to like main event stuff, the Street Profits, Montez Ford is back.
Yeah, so I think again it was Krusty. I think I asked a couple of weeks ago where the Street Profits were, and I hadn't heard of them being injured. And weirdly, I think the next day I read about Montez Ford being out, so that was why they were gone. And obviously now they're back.
It's actually a shame they didn't use Dawkins on his own because he's had a good run recently.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't keep them on TV. Even
I think they definitely would have done with Montez. Yeah, that is a strange point actually.
Because they've pushed Dawkins, didn't they, quite a lot?
Yeah, and they use the Profits a lot, don't they? Like backstage segments, and they could have carried that on, but obviously Montez probably wanted some time off to heal. I don't know.
Yeah,
good to see back.
Alpha Academy.
My only criticism is, I mean, we've seen that match about 600 times. It was still good, but when I saw their face in the Alpha Academy, I was like, really? Come on. Yeah. They feuded for like 6 months every week when Vince was in charge. It was like every week we'd get an Alpha Academy Street Profits match. So I want them to. I don't know what they're going to do because they're not going after the titles at the moment, and they face the Usos a lot anyway. So, and we've only one set of tag titles. This is where the problems become because there's not much you can do with the tag teams. And talking of tag title feuds, it looks like next Monday we're getting Elias and Riddle versus the Usos, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't know what I make of that.
Not really.
At least it's a different match.
They've teamed up once. I don't know if they deserve a tag team title match, but there we go.
No, but it's a different match, and the Usos are going to win clearly. Like if they're not going to, maybe this is where Elias turns on Riddle. I think that's probably what it's used for. I think you have Elias turn on Riddle here. I don't think they should keep this going for a long time. I don't think it's got the magic of the Randy and Riddle combo. I just don't see it.
No.
I would have Riddle take the pin and then Elias smash him around the head, or Riddle forces Elias to lose by some sort of miscommunication, and then Elias just smashes him with the guitar afterwards because he's fed up with him. I would just do it, and then you can have a Riddle Elias feud that would be okay in the mid card.
Unfortunately, due to the news recently of Randy Orton actually having major surgery on his back, the likelihood of our dream sort of turning feud Orton on Riddle happening at Mania is probably
it might be a bit. I mean, I have heard some different contradicting news since that, but like maybe he's not as bad as that suggested. It's
difficult, isn't it? It'll be a surprise if he does come back.
I don't think he'll be back by Mania. Maybe he'll come back after Mania, like the Raw after Mania. But
would they also purposely leak some rumors of him being out longer so he's back sooner than what is reported?
I did think possibly that, but
if I was that's what I do if I was WWE. I would put people off to send. I'd say Randy Orton is out for 6 months and then he comes back a month later and back at a Rumble or something and just
they did
surprise
that with
everyone.
Drew, didn't they, with his neck injury and then he suddenly appeared.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's. But if there's contradicting reports,
I actually don't think they know, to be honest. I think it's one of those scenarios where they're being cautious because they're not sure, and they're going to let Randy have as long as he needs off because he's done so much for the company. Like you can't, if he doesn't feel ready.
The thing is, I guess right now there's no rush, but as soon as we get to Rumble Mania season, there's going to be a bigger let's get Cody, Big E. All these guys, let's get them back as quickly as possible. Charlotte Flair, let's just try and get them all back. And there's going to be more of a kind of urgency when we get to big shows. But right now, there's probably not an urgency to get Orton back. So give him time. We talk about the tag team division. There was an 8-man tag on this show. It's obviously a long-term feud and. Again, kind of run my eyes a bit when this match was announced. We had Mia Yim and
I didn't know when that
Ripley.
match was announced purely because they've
this is interesting.
One-on-one match,
and then Dom comes into the ring and then AJ comes down and it just and it
Leads to
ends up in
DQ.
an 8-person
Absolute
tag,
massive brawl, wasn't it?
which I know it hasn't happened before, but if this already feels a bit like, all right, we're going again with these guys.
Hopefully that's the end of it. But
I didn't mind this one.
I thought it was a
weirdly.
really fun match.
Normally I'm quite
once it
critical,
got
but
going.
yeah, I thought it was a long match, wasn't it? It went on for quite a long time.
Yeah, well,
got some
they had
proper
the first hour advert free, didn't they? So they were
That was random. I didn't really understand that. But
they do it time to time, don't they? Just to get some viewers.
Yeah, they wanted to promote Becky Lynch's promo. They wanted to do this big match here that I think they felt was a big match, and then I think they did.
It was
What did they do? Oh, the blood, and then they had the bloodline on afterwards. So it's quite a lot of your big stuff. Is actually, I thought the first hour of Raw was the best hour of Raw in quite some time.
It was good.
The rest of the show wasn't as good as the first hour.
They packed it all in, didn't they?
But that first hour commercial free was really good. So yeah, kudos to them for that.
And Rhea Ripley picking up the pin on Mia Yim.
Yeah, which that was what was strange about it, because obviously they caused a DQ. I thought, okay, they don't want to pin Mia here, so they're doing this 8-man, and I thought maybe Dom will take the pin so that the OC will win the feud. But then they just had Rhea pin Mia anyway. I was like, okay, they could have just done that in the first place.
I think this is going to go a bit to and fro now. I think Mia will potentially pin Rhea.
Yeah, I think there's still more in the tank for those two. I don't necessarily want to see any more OC Judgment Day matches.
No, especially as Dom is quite clearly they're clearly working that Dom Ray story again.
Yeah, I mean that Thanksgiving video
the videos
was great. I loved it.
They're clearly.
I love stuff like that where they go outside of. I mean, I've said it before. When they go outside of wrestling, when they go to people's houses and they do things like that. But I need to see.
And it's also Dom's house, and Dom's family house, so it's fine. But yeah, I was just thinking though, as you were talking about the tag team division, whether you could do some sort of Judgment Day bloodline stuff with Gallows and Anderson videos. Those would feel quite fresh, and AJV Roman would feel quite fresh.
I thought,
Oh, sorry,
Judgment Day. I was like,
sorry, the OC. I meant,
Or Judgment Day. That is a good. That would be a good idea.
I think that's something you could do.
You could do AJV Roman as well, which would be amazing. But I don't know. I don't think that's in the plans. But I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Do you know who I feel sorry for actually in this feud is Damian Priest.
Yeah,
he is such an afterthought because Gallows and Anderson, me and him are kind of new returns. AJ's the main guy. Then you got Balor's the main guy. Rhea and Dom are doing their thing. And Damian Priest doesn't do a lot. He hit
his awesome choke slam on Gallows though, which is pretty cool.
He just feels like the 8th person in this feud.
I do get what you mean.
I just feel a bit sorry for him. He had an absolute tear earlier on in 2022. He was like, one of the main guys on Raw, and he's just off the boil.
He's still in a faction that gets a lot of TV time, and he's still good he's still having good matches and stuff. But yeah, I agree in terms of the story of that faction, because Balor and AJ's been the main thing, and then obviously the Rhea and Dom relationship part of it is probably the most entertaining thing from it.
Yeah,
so and he does feel like the 4th member.
They've really kind of played into this relationship now. It's like I think they even might have said that they're a couple, obviously on-screen couple, but they're really playing into that, which I don't know if that was the original idea. I think it's just been born out of
I'm not sure
online or whatever. I don't know, but they kind of mentioned it for the first time this week. I was a bit surprised, but yeah. And then who wants to go with the bloodline stuff, because that's kind of all we haven't spoke about.
I mean, there was obviously the Theory Rollins segment as well, but if we start with the bloodline,
don't miss that out.
Sorry,
how dare you?
I really enjoyed the segment. Obviously you got Sammy hugging both Usos. Solo not trying to get Solo, and Solo's rolling. This is so interesting. We don't talk about him, but he's just so reluctant. Do you think he knows something that they don't know, or something?
I just think he's cool.
Or do you think he's just too cool for the group?
Yeah, he's too cool.
I quite like how different he is to his brothers. I thought they might have just made him an Uso. They could
have easily called him Solo Uso or something and just gone.
Well, just
put him in the same look.
Just do the same name.
More similar to Rikishi, really, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's more like. Well, yeah, I've seen a lot of comparisons to Umaga. Yeah, Umaga. He's a lot like Umaga, and that's cool. Yeah, he's definitely like the enforcer, the badass. I like that. Cool. I like that he's different. And then obviously he's sort of wondering whether to join in, and that's when Kevin Owens comes out And then I loved KO's promo, basically saying he didn't want to fight Sami Zayn, but he also doesn't want to team with him. He just doesn't want anything to do with him. I thought that was really good stuff.
And I like the way Sammy kicked back and was like, well, I don't need you. I've got my family. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then KO and Jey Uso were going to have a match later, which they did in the main event.
Jay.
It was a really, really good match.
Banger.
KO was kicking out of absolutely everything. He did like 3 super kicks.
He was.
Splashes and all sorts. And KO was kicking out of everything and ended up winning. He needed to win after taking the pin at War Games. I wasn't critical of that because the story suited it perfectly. But I don't like KO losing too often. So him to get the win back. Jay in a solo match is fine. In a tag match, obviously, I hate it when tag champs lose in a tag match, but in a singles match, not as much of a problem for me. Really enjoyed everything they did. I'm just glad to see KO back in a big spot. And I think we're building to KO and Roman at the Royal Rumble.
I think you're right.
But there is, I don't know if you've heard about the heat after the match that KO had. So Roman apparently was really angry after the match.
Yes, I have heard
because of a spot, an unplanned spot with him and KO, and I've seen the spot. Basically, he got a burst eardrum. Roman did it was like a slap. To the face,
sorry. So, you mean War Games? Sorry.
So at War Games,
I thought you meant this main event. Sorry, yeah.
No, so at War Games, there was a spot where Roman KO slapped Roman and hit him really hard, like at the side of the head, and apparently Roman was angry after the show with KO. But I'm sure Roman is like an ultimate professional. KO's an ultimate professional. I'm sure it's not going to affect them having their match. And the fact that they booked KO versus Jey Uso and KO winning on Raw, to me, suggests they're still going to do that match. I don't think they're not going to.
Yeah, I read that they were professional about it and they sort of
Roman was apparently pissed off, but it happens.
That doesn't feel like a match plan altering thing.
No. I think these two guys aren't guys that are going to be like, I'm not working with him. I just don't see it. I think it'll be fine. I think from what I've heard, the plan is for KO at KO versus thing at the Rumble, and then obviously what's interesting is the elimination chamber in Montreal. Something huge has got to happen there with Sami Zayn.
Well, I can only assume that you are going to get. We're predicting way in advance here, but you're going to get the KO versus Roman at the Royal Rumble. Sami is going to cost KO that match. They're then going to be thrown into the elimination chamber. That's going to be their first face-off, and then that'll go, and they'll have a match at Mania, I think.
I think we're going to get KO versus Roman at the Rumble. KO tries to help. Sami, for some reason, tries to help KO or saves him from beatdown after the match or something.
Right.
Then in Montreal, do Sami versus Roman because Sami as the baby face in Montreal.
Do they not put the champion in the chamber now though?
It depends. Sometimes they do number one contender.
I don't think they'll do Roman versus.
Just put the whole bloodline in. Why not? Just let them have a massive fight.
I think that's what they'll do, and then Sami will lose, but it will lead to KO and Sami versus the Usos at Mania.
You think they're going to break that up so soon though? You think they're going to stop?
They'll start it at the. They've got to start it at the Rumble to get the wheels going for Mania, haven't they?
Yeah,
I think the Rumble's the perfect spot for it.
It's a good build.
And then
for me, the Mania match is Sami v Roman. That's your Mania match.
I've heard a lot of people say that, but I just don't think that will happen.
Yeah, but if you can't get The Rock, and even The Rock almost makes it does. There is a story with The Rock because head of the table, whatever. But
my problem with The Rock, if you do that, right, Roman has to lose the title or Rock has to win the Royal Rumble, and I don't think either of them are good ideas.
Yeah, or Roman just beats The Rock.
Roman beats The Rock and keeps the title at Mania.
Yeah, I think Roman has to beat The Rock.
The Rock still has to win the Royal Rumble, which is a bit weird.
Doesn't have to.
Forget about the Royal Rumble.
Oh no, yeah, of course.
There's only one title. He will have to. That's the problem with it.
That would own it.
That's why I don't think
it's spot.
Yeah, I just don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. Unless I've heard some people suggest they might do 2 matches. Roman defends the title on night 1 and then faces The Rock on night 2. But I don't know. I've got a funny feeling they're not going to do the Rock match.
I think we need to do a full podcast on Mania predictions.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about maybe doing that. And
maybe we should do it in the new year.
I think Cody versus Roman might be the match. That would be what I'd go with.
I mean, the thing is, the point of all of this is there are a lot of options for Roman Reigns.
It's so excited, isn't it?
So many options. We haven't even spoken about Seth as an option.
Now he's a face as well, and he's not got the United States title.
He's a face, and he's not the US champ, like Seth v Roman at Mania is.
They did take it
sells
off him
itself.
quite quickly when
I was
it
shocked. by
seemed
this.
like a deserved sort of.
I just wonder
title.
what he's going to do now. I mean, we can talk about the segment in a minute. Obviously, he's having another match with Theory. That's clear. But then surely they're not going to hot potato the title back onto Seth. And then what does Seth do from there? It's interesting.
Should we go on to that segment? And I want to know what you thought about it, Krusty.
I loved it. This Theory promo was absolute fire, in my opinion. I just think he just looks great as well now. It's weird how you can just look like a heel. It's so weird without wearing like face paint and things like that.
It's just the facial expressions. There's a lot of like nuances that I don't think people realize goes into it, and the way you walk, the way you
stand.
the way you
Just
hold
getting
your
rid of
mic.
this selfie thing and everything.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I just think he's helped himself so much, even growing out his beard a little bit, and just everything he's done. These little details, I think, have really helped.
He gets a lot of
he
heat, but I
is
honestly think he's
a future
awesome.
star.
I think he's great. I think the heat on him recently has been unjust. I think it's only because Vince held his hand.
I've been a
he's
huge
brilliant.
Theory fan for a while.
I like
think
Theory. I just think it ultimately putting the briefcase on him was a terrible decision. I think that's been proven because since he's got rid of the briefcase, we've seen what he can do. And he was. It made it worse, obviously, with Roman having both titles and that not being the second world champion. If there was a second world champion, he could have easily cashed in and had a short title run.
Yeah, I think that's the point, Fisher. I think whoever Money in the Bank was going to struggle.
It was going to be, they were.
Yeah. Booked into a corner.
The only way they wouldn't have been is if they held on to it until WrestleMania and cashed in there like Seth did, or after, because you get it till Money in the Bank. So someone could win the title, say Cody Rhodes does face Roman at WrestleMania, and then they cash in on Cody Rhodes on the next night or something. Do you know what I mean? Something like that could have happened. But other than that, there wasn't really any chance for anybody to cash in. You're right.
It's going to be a lot more realistic now, I guess, now that's moving to Money in the Bank's moving to WrestleMania. Which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
I loved the Seth segment as well. The only thing I noticed was what on earth was Seth wearing? He wears some boisterous, loud clothing, but he looked like he was wearing his man's neck curtains. He's looking at a picture of Seth wearing his man's neck
They got really close to the camera there, Fisher.
Sorry,
He's been possessed.
Yes. But yeah.
He's done this in The Undertaker.
Really.
Carry on.
I just really liked this segment. The one thing I thought I would be salty about was Seth losing the title so far.
Well, I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised that you're not actually. I am, because of I'm confused to the direction for Seth now. That's
the way it was done. I trust Triple H. Seth is Triple H's one of his boys, isn't he?
Seth will be fine.
Seth will be fine.
He'll be in a top tier match at Mania for a belt, not for a belt.
If he's not a big criminal.
You've also got that law of potentially Cody coming back. That hasn't finished. Think of the way that ended.
He even mentioned. Was it last week? He mentioned it. He mentioned it a week or two ago.
I don't know. You also had a Cody
which does
Rhodes.
Make his quite apparent face turn odd, because Cody has to be a face when he comes back.
Oh, that is true.
A couple of things we haven't mentioned as well. Well, I don't think. I think Seth is the sort of face out of him in theory, but I still don't think he is a bit of a
tweener, isn't he?
He's in the middle, yeah. He's still very arrogant. He's still very flamboyant, which is all heel traits.
Yeah.
I said before, I don't want him to turn face. He's not as strong as a face. His current character is perfect because he can do what he wants. He can face Roman, he can face Theory, he could face
nothing about his character is face, other than the fact that people love his theme tune. People sing his theme music and he orchestrates them, and that's the only facing about him. He's still.
I love the way he told Theory to shut up and let them sing.
Yeah. Phenomenal. And the main point of this promo was Theory doesn't like being called kid, and then Seth leaning in right at the end, and he was like, "See you soon, kid," or something, whatever he said.
Because Dolph Ziggler used to call him kid a lot, didn't he? In their feud.
Yeah, and that's going to be the crux of this feud going forward, is kid. What I'm interested in, we didn't see it this week, but Bobby Lashley, because he hit. He hit the finishing move in the triple threat match, he's obviously been an angry bastard the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what he does when he comes back, because he's going to be on a tear, surely, Lashley. And I was thinking, I wouldn't mind, or actually, I'd quite enjoy seeing Lashley and Roman go at it for the title, because that feels a really fresh match.
Yeah, I remember saying that a while back.
Yeah, and I think
Lashley
Lashley's been built to that level where that would seem like a credible match against Roman. Again,
because he hasn't actually lost anything properly, has he?
No, Lashley's been booked in. You're talking about Rhea being lined up as the Rumble winner. Bobby Lashley's recent run, you could say he's been built up as a Rumble winner. Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, he kind of has. There's a few quite often you notice patterns in like booking up to the Rumble. I remember when Drew McIntyre won it, suddenly he turned face and he was being but well strong. For a few weeks he was beating everybody and everyone was like, and then he obviously eliminated Brock and won it.
You could certainly do that, like you say, have Lashley versus Roman, because Lashley wins the Royal Rumble. And I mentioned it earlier but didn't sort of click. You could quite easily put Cody Rhodes in a Money in the Bank match and then have him cash in on that match, and that be an incredible moment. There's so much they could do with this. It is madness. You could put Seth in a Money in the Bank match and have almost a repeat of what he did a few years ago.
I think the ideas for main event matches at Mania on the men's side, the women's side not as much, but the men's side in particular is just, I don't think it's mad to think Solo Sikoa v Roman Reigns could happen. I don't think that's crazy. I think Solo Sikoa is an interesting. I think we said a minute earlier, Fish. He's interesting. He seems like the one who's not maybe 100% behind Roman, and maybe he turns on Roman.
Yeah, he's very, because he doesn't say anything, and I don't know.
And he doesn't. Well, one thing you'll notice as well, I noticed this actually at Survivor Series when they walked out and they all put their hands in the air. Solo Sikoa doesn't do that. They all put their wands up. Solo Sikoa doesn't. Paul Heyman does. The Usos do. Sami Zayn does.
And focused. That's
Triple H does these things which are small, but they all mean something. And I think this may be one of those. I don't know when. I'm not saying maybe even after Mania this happens, but I think Solo Sikoa
one day
is gonna face Roman in a big time match at some point soon. Within the next 6 months.
Going back to your Sami Zayn thing, Keeney, about doing Sami Zayn versus Roman. I heard someone suggest the other day an amazing storyline would be have Sami win the Rumble almost reluctantly, and then he's not gonna face Roman because he doesn't want to, but then KO persuades him to.
Yeah,
and that's when the blood runs out. But I don't see that being the Mania main event. I just don't see it. But I think, also because of Sami and Jay's relationship, I think you have to do Sami and Jay in a match at the bit. I think Sami and Jay has been the main story, not Sami and Roman, really.
Yeah, Sami and Jay could be a Mania match.
But you're not going to do a singles match with Jay Uso in it.
Main event Jay.
But KO's also, it just makes total sense as a tag title match, doesn't it?
I think also we've said a few times about the Money in the Bank match. Could you have Sami win Money in the Bank at Mania?
Yeah, and that would be a good idea.
And then he almost comes down to cash in to stop someone beating Roman, and then he's there with the briefcase. Actually, I could become champion, and then cashes in on Roman because he's one of the most over guys.
It depends on
right now.
It really depends on who faces Roman at Mania and if they beat them or not, and if they beat him or not, doesn't it?
Cody wins a Rumble. Cody Roman main event at Mania. Sami Zayn wins Money in the Bank at Mania, cashes in, and pins Roman for the title.
I don't think they're doing Money in the Bank at Mania, by the way, but
are they not?
Because they do. They're doing Money. I'm pretty sure the Money in the Bank pay-per-view is happening next year. Triple H was.
We've gone and
we've just told suggested 10 different
alternatives. All our predictions out.
After there was a press conference after Survivor Series, and they asked him about match type pay-per-views because they're a bit, limited. And he said, "I agree on Hell in a Cell. It doesn't make any sense. You should do a Hell in a Cell match when a feud requires it, not just set up around Hell in a Cell.
Nor does
you can challenge someone to Hell in
Nor does War Games, by the way.
No.
It only
not
makes
really.
sense to blow off a flu. It doesn't make sense to just have 2 matches set and then.
But
you
he
put people in
said
it.
Elimination Chamber and Money in the Bank are different because you don't go, oh, I'm going to challenge you to a Money in the Bank match. It doesn't work that way. There's multiple people involved and it's got like a prize at the end of it. So he was like, you know, that's a bit different. So we'll probably keep that. But it sounded like he might get rid of Hell in a Cell as a pay-per-view, which makes sense. And he did also say he might not do War Games every year at Survivor Series. He might just do it when it requires it. I think this year they wanted to just get it in.
I think there should be certain matches which are match types. Like Hell in a Cell is a match type, but you don't have a pay-per-view with Hell in a Cell matches, then just put people in them. Find people to go in them. You create a big feud and then you have a Hell in a Cell match over that feud. You don't do it the other way around. Which is what I thought with War Games, because that's been mentioned, and I was like, well, this kind of feels like they've just thrown 5 people to face Bloodline. There's not much storyline for Ridge Holland to be fighting the Bloodline in this match. It's just to fit people in to make 5 up against them. There's no real.
There would have been, by the way, you know, remember that KO injury scare? People saying he was injured. There would have been no point to that match if KO didn't make it in the end, really. They'd have had to change that completely. So it's a good job KO was available.
They would have done. Yeah.
But yeah, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent now, haven't we?
Yeah, but I think we've probably covered Raw, though.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything, really.
I think we've covered everything, yeah. All the way up to Mania now.
Yeah, we've covered everything until Mania. We don't need to be back until Mania.
Yeah. Did you just want to mention our predictions competition results, Fisher?
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you very much to everyone who took part in our predictions. We had about 20 odd people, which was a decent. It was really for the first year. I think we've made some, like, you know, you had some good people join it. We've made some, I don't want to call you friends.
No, we're not friends.
Enemies, especially
we've got to know quite a few people. We've got, competitive rivalries in there, some good interactions on Twitter. It's been real fun predicting. I've sucked, frankly. I mean, I've come fourth in the table, but
you just insulted everybody who's joined in.
I was about to say, can we just make a comment on the subject of sucking? Didn't we get Nicole, who got 0 on Survivor Series?
She did get 0.
I even tweeted about that.
The only 0 of the year.
Apart from people who didn't take part, obviously, who missed pay-per-views.
But to
predict 5 matches and not get one right does take
that's actually impressive. I think she deserves a prize for that.
Fair play.
That's a skid mark.
Hopefully we'll get more of you involved next year. Congratulations to RM Punk.
A t-shirt is on its way.
He's chosen a t-shirt. We stuck by our word on that. So next year it'll be, I don't know if it'll be the same, but there'll probably be some prize up for grabs. I don't know if it'll be exactly the same, but
we'll have a think about that.
We need to check our budgets for 2023. See what we can afford.
Yeah.
You can win a Recharge Wrestling pen.
Hey. Not to be sniffed at.
Yeah, it certainly was very fun, very interesting.
Can I just who won out of the 3 of us?
You did.
Was it me? Yeah.
Just
thank you. So
by the
Krusty's
skin of your teeth.
No, but for like the whole year, you've been of 2 years in a row champ, whatever you've been saying. This is our first official public prediction league, and I've won out of the 3 of us. So I am the Recharge Wrestling predicting king for a year. And I will bring this up many times next year.
I am going to cash in on you in the middle of a podcast.
And I'm after RM Punk next year.
Yeah, next year.
He only beat you by 1 point, so it's close.
He absolutely is.
Because he had a bad final show.
He had a phenomenal AEW show, so fair play to him.
Yeah, no, he was top for, if not all the year, most of the year. Maybe from.
I think he was
wanted to give him a chance because it wouldn't look dodgy if I decided to win by a mile.
But then, obviously, if one of us won, we wouldn't give ourselves a t-shirt.
Yeah, I would have bought myself one though. Just
really, he didn't have much competition.
I did buy myself one as a little prize for doing so well.
I got this Clash at the Castle t-shirt.
Well, we're not going to talk about that. That's a feud, another feud. Anyway, I think we've rambled on long enough now.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed that podcast. We are on multiple social media outlets. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can find us on Twitter at Recharge Wrestle, where we tweet quite regularly. If you're listening to us on podcast, please search for us on YouTube. Just search Recharge Wrestling and we will come up. Please give us a like and subscribe. We will really appreciate it. And we will be back next week. Thanks very much.
Cool. Cheers,
See you later, guys. Bye.